We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.
All right, Pragna, go for it.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Pragna Nidumolu. I'm the founder of EcoTeens, and it is great to have you all here today. Just a little introduction of what EcoTeens is and why I'm here. EcoTeens is a nonprofit initiative to bring together the teens and just people all across the globe to start talking about sustainability and climate-related issues because it's something that we really do need to address. And today, I'm here with Dr. Dave, who has been so kind to give me an interview with him right now. So, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself? And that would be great.
Sure. Let me just begin by saying that I am not a sustainability and climate change expert. What I really provide is insights about, you know,
Mhm.
So I could say that I can't provide insights about, kind of like resource conservation or carbon footprint reduction or community engagement, or even hypothesize about the cause of specific climate phenomena. But what I do offer is a profound amount of experiences in human-centered design, system transformation, technology, information, and innovation, and adaptive ways of working. And I just want your listeners to recognize that they could contribute to sustainability and climate change conversations and innovations without being experts. I say we need every brain and deck to help sustain our home, which we call Earth, so people can live and thrive. So um, that's who I am, and I needed a way to have productive conversations about sustainability, and so which could also lead to incremental innovation. So you and I have been working on this generative sustainability practice
Mhm.
to really help us have these conversations about sustainability, climate change, and green innovations per se. So
Yeah,
that's kind
so
of my story.
while we're on the topic of GSPs right now,
Yeah.
do you want to talk a little bit with me about how does GSP foster these creative solutions to these complex environmental problems? How does it help?
So when you think about GSP as generative sustainability practice, generative really emphasizes like focusing on creating like innovative solutions to sustainability challenges. We're talking about being creative, leveraging technology, enabling collaboration, so we can come up with new ideas and approaches to help build a more sustainable future for our planet, and more importantly for us human beings, right? Because we're not sustaining the planet just for the sake of sustaining the planet. We're doing it
Right.
because we need a home. And sometimes I said, think of GSP, like this, right? So imagine that like you have a box of Legos, which is a fun thing that I enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
You could build different things with them, right? Maybe a house, a car, or even a robot. And GSP is similar in terms of using different structures. But instead of Legos, we use ideas and technology to solve problems that to help our planet. So that's what GSP kind of help us with. And so it doesn't really dig into any sustainability or climate change solution, but what it does, it provides a framework or a set of practices that we could have dialogue, and then
Right.
which would hopefully lead us to some innovation that we could really track and manage in an adaptive way. That's kind of the context.
Yeah, that's great. And it's amazing that I have the opportunity to be able to work with you on this paper. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
So jumping right into the questions, as the founder of the 5 Saturday STEAM program for at-risk youth, how do you see the intersection of sustainability and STEM education shaping our future workforces?
No, a great question, because and just for anyone who doesn't know what the 5 Saturdays program is. And STEAM stand for science, technology, engineering. A is for agile as opposed to art, and M is
Yeah.
for mathematics.
Mhm.
So it was a program designed to help high school students, really focus on high school students, 13 to 19-year-old old, who really may not have been exposed to technology and innovation and entrepreneurship and all of those different skills. So the program was designed specifically to help students get those skills and be exposed to industry professionals who are working in those spaces. So that's what it is. So, by embedding, when you think about principles, um, of sustainability principles into, you think like STEM learning, right? We're just giving them new tools for them to be able to perhaps use the skills and knowledge to
Mhm.
really understand the problems that we're really dealing with, and to create maybe new technologies potentially, and even looking at different models that they may be able to start to think about and have conversations about, which would really help us to drive the sustainable future, right?
Right.
And so we're thinking that this may be an opportunity to engage in that sense of urgency that sometimes we think about when it comes to climate and sustainability, and really just helping them to see that, there's a career, and
Mhm.
especially when we talk about STEM, there's a career in this space that they could pursue, and it's a viable thing, so that they may start thinking about renewable energies and sustainable agriculture, clean technology, and other just emerging fields, just crucial for any type of sustainable product. And so when you think about the convergence between sustainability and STEM, this really would help to catalyze, what I
Yeah.
think as green innovation, and just empowering those future leaders to develop solutions for environmental challenges. So that's kind of my thinking about standing up a pod, is what we call
Mhm.
one of our expressions of Five Saturday, to be able to do
Mhm.
that work.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that sustainability is a really big part of STEM education, and it's obviously part of science part of it. But I think it's really important for us to start considering that as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Moving on, in your experience with organizational transformation, how can companies integrate sustainability practices in a better way while also empowering youth and young people?
Um, Sometimes I think of this, that there's a great opportunity here, um,
Mhm.
where we could start crowdsourcing ideas, right? I mean, so sometimes I think about science fairs that you could run within an enterprise,
Right.
on their, and we've done this before, with past experiences, that you're running these science fairs of people coming up with new ideas to solve solutions. Why not apply that to sustainability as well, right? I
Mhm.
think that is a really important thing. And sometimes I think about companies like Google, right? Where they have a vision of some type of measurable goals, right?
Mhm.
So if they think about, like, hey, I want to achieve net zero emissions from, from across all of our operation and our value
Yeah.
chain by 2030, that's a vision that people could lean into, and you could start to run these different activities that help people to share these ideas,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's really important, to have vision, so that everyone could lean into that vision, and then you could start to run multiple different types of experiments, for people to start sharing their concepts and ideas and validating. And as you start have different groups sharing back and forth, things could really lead to new innovations,
Yeah.
right? So that's one way to think about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that my generation, that's something that we really want. Our voice is heard, and giving kind of a platform for that is really important. And that's something that would kind of retain our attention and also empower us, like I said before. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, aside from that, you've helped deliver over more than $1 billion in customer value for major brands, which is an insane number. So, how can businesses align their profit-driven goals with sustainability practices? Because that's one of the hardest things for companies to do. And also, what can younger people and younger professionals play in this kind of shift towards sustainability?
So, just to be transparent, the 1 billion customer value was based on scaling operations through technology innovation, right?
Mhm.
So if we could do something that used to take 2 weeks and you could get it done in 10 to 30 seconds, that is a huge, right, amount of capabilities that you've just put in the hands of different organizations. So I just wanted people to understand that at the as we're doing that, this that type of scaling, we may be um, using up more fossil fuels to have computers go
Mhm.
faster. And even when you think about AI, that's also a challenge in itself. But
Right.
when you think of businesses today, they really think about sustainability. Most of them do. Some of them think of it as a moral imperative, and sometimes they may think that it's a strategic advantage for their organization to embrace this way of thinking and this way of
Mhm.
working. And so when we could tap into these fresh perspectives from when we think of the digital savvy and young professional, who become key drivers of this type of shift and change,
Mhm.
um, they have an opportunity to come up with new ways to think about sustainability growth, right? They can be these great champions of green innovation, like yourself, right? What you're doing out there, having conversation. You and I having this dialogue, writing white
Mhm.
papers. I mean, I think these are ways to identify opportunities to think about reducing waste and optimizing the different resources that we do have, and really to start developing some eco-friendly products and services, that seems to appeal to an increasing conscious consumer base, right? And
Mhm.
so this not only just enhances like brand reputation, but it also creates these long-term value and resilience of the organizations, because we're beginning to make a pivot and a shift away from the status quo. So this is just another way of how we have to begin to
Mhm.
innovate in a way that our products meet the needs of our consumers, but also meet the needs as the earth that we live on as well, because that's really essentially. And some people like to say, well, the earth as a stakeholder, but yeah, it is a stakeholder because it is really super important to
Mhm.
consider the needs of the earth. And I could go on more and more about that.
Mhm.
So, but so like the science fairs, like I said, is really another important tool that people could start to lean into for experimentation and conversations, right? Really important stuff.
Absolutely, I agree. And to touch on the point you said before about sustainability kind of bringing in new customers, apparently 76% of Gen Z look specifically for sustainable branded products. And I think that says a lot about the values of my generation and what we look for. And that shows these companies that, they should use sustainability as their competitive advantage,
Yeah.
not as a disadvantage. And if, we make that huge shift towards more sustainable products, it'll become a norm, right? And it won't be too out of the way in terms of profits. So that's just something I wanted to add to what you said on this topic. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's why people like me, it's great to collaborate with you know people like you who are really like deeply into to this practice, and
Mhm.
and deeply into understanding sustainability more. So when I talk about the collaboration earlier, about the talents and skills that I bring, and we partner together, then it gives us a more complete picture in terms of how we go about dealing with some of the challenges that we
Right.
do have with sustainability.
I agree. Absolutely. And I think this type of collaboration is necessary now at
Yeah.
this time. as Gen Z starts going into the workforce, because we also need to be aware of what's happening and why the shift isn't already happening, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. So, kind of talking about your space in Agile as well, with your focus in that area and digital transformation, how can these two approaches be used to address the urgent sustainability challenges, and especially the ones that are impacting younger generations like mine and future generations?
So I like to say that we have to go slow to go fast. It's a thing that we say in the agile space, right?
Mhm.
Um, so when I think about wind turbines and they provide sustainable energy as an energy source, however, we know it's been reported that this technology affects birds and bees. We have to be, what I say, aware of the unintended consequences of our green innovation. Right? I mean, so that's one of the thought process that, even though there's some urgency, we still have to be thoughtful about our approach. And when you've seen, when I talk about C, right, we're talking about the impact socially, environmentally, and economically, right? So those things are really important as part of the conversation. So business agility and digital technologies per se are just powerful enablers of green innovation. And I keep using the term green innovation because that's where my mind is of this type of innovation that's going to help us move forward. And so if we leverage data, analytics, AI, and other, cutting edge tools per se as well, we can monitor, some of the impacts of our new innovations, right? Or if we don't innovate, we can still monitor and see what the data is saying about that if it's available. We can start looking at, how can we be more effective in some of these innovations that we may come up with, right? Because we could even just maybe even come up with other wonderful sustainable solutions, at a much faster pace, because now we're leveraging technology and now we have more information to start making better choices, right, in the process. So, young leaders, I don't call them young people, young leaders, you know, being digitally native, right, as an expression or as an experience, they're in a great position to help lead this charge, help to contribute to this charge as well, and leveraging technology to build, a more sustainable solution. So um, that's the way I think about, agility itself. Since
Mhm.
we have to go slow to go fast, we're taking everything into consideration, and we're looking for measurable outcomes, right? Things that we could start making choices. Go this way for a little while, maybe, oh well, that doesn't work, let's go another way. Okay, that's a little better, right? So we can start making these trade-offs, and we can start doing them with shorter feedback loops, right? Shorter amount of time, right? As opposed to it being like 18 months or 18 years. Maybe we could learn something in 30 days or even in 10 days, right? We could start to like run these short experiments and get feedback and learning using data, and just having great conversations about the innovation as well. So kind of like that's my thinking about, leveraging business
Yeah.
agility that way.
I think that's really cool how agile can be used in sustainability, because that's not something that people think about a lot. But
Mhm.
it's great that you're in that space and that you can share these ideas with us, because it's something that we should be thinking about as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit, talking about innovation, because I think you mentioned that before. You work a lot in kind of the innovation area. So how can we create a culture of sustainable innovation among younger entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs?
Well, it goes back to what we talked about before when we look at, um, we're doing these experiments where we're having these conversations, and we're being really intentional about creating spaces where people could actually go and try stuff, right? I mean, so uh, if if we could build what we call minimal viable products, MVPs, small increment of value that we could test rapidly and get feedback. I mean, that helps to deal with entrepreneurs per se, because that's a mindset that they naturally have to take anyway, right? To learn fast as much as possible, so they could really leverage the resources that they have and people, right? And the same thing goes for entrepreneurs, right? If they have an organization that's funding an initiative, I mean, you still have to have the same principle of building MVPs, small increments of value, and learning quickly as possible, based on just shorter feedback loops, right? And I was talking about 10 days, 30 days, right? And you just go through that loop, that feedback loop over and over again, until you either validate the hypothesis that you have, right? This idea that something is great and is going to be helpful, or it may give you other information that your idea doesn't work that well, right? And maybe it doesn't work that well now, right? At this period in time. So, I mean, that's kind of the perspective that I see that as.
Yeah, for sure. I think people will be able to innovate anywhere as long as they, put their mind to it. But you're absolutely right. I think we need more sustainable innovation to,
Yeah.
reach the goals that we have. So,
Yeah, and what it's having a little bit of structure sometimes help, right?
mhm.
It doesn't have to be a lot, just enough, so that we know what we hypothesize about. We run the experiment and we capture some learning from it. So
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
yeah.
Um, so just a couple more questions here.
Okay.
As a community advocate, how do you envision engaging youth from different backgrounds into sustainability initiatives, especially in the tech and product development field, since you work in those as well?
Well, I I've done that through the 5 Saturdays STEM
Mhm,
program, right? That's
mhm,
one way of we actually touched and demonstrated how to be more sustainable in terms of reusing different things that we would bring to those spaces, right? Because normally the program is like we'll go into a high school and spend, literally 5 or 7 Saturdays there with a group of students and teachers and people from the community. But we kind of modeled that behavior for the students to see what that looks like, right? And in the corporate world, you see it as well today. You see all the bins and different activities that people are doing um, to get that to work. But what I'm thinking about when we're talking about engaging people from students or young people from different diverse backgrounds, we just need more representation of 5 Saturdays type programs, those STEM type programs, so we could engage individuals. So, like, I think about, how can we take like the 5 Saturdays initiative itself and have it advocate for more sustainability practices, by launching more pods, right? And so part of that is just creating those more inclusive spaces where people from all different walks of life can contribute their talents and passion, toward more greener innovation. We have to do that, right? Because
mhm.
it's not just the very rich or the people who have means who are going to be impacted you know, by this. Everyone needs to bring. When I say we need all brains on deck, we need everyone to bring innovative
Mhm.
ideas and really start to put them into practice. Because that's the important thing. It's not just
Yeah.
thinking and talking. I'm talking about innovation, and so that we could actually go forward and try things, see what works and what doesn't work, right? And
Mhm.
so we may have to provide more mentorship and access to different types of resources, right, for different communities that may need that, and really work in real world projects that
Yeah.
really address environmental changes. So if you want to work on something about conservation, then let's put that into play, put that into
Mhm.
practice, do that, right? And so by just showcasing these possibilities, when we're talking about the intersection of technology, product development, sustainability, right? Bring all these things together. We could probably start to inspire a new way of thinking, right? A new approach to drive like a positive change.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're absolutely right. And what you said before about we need people to actually, put in the work and do something about it. All of this is much easier said than done, right? Like we can talk so much about, we want to do this and that, but people who actually go through with it and do something about it are actually pushing this cause forward. And like you said, we definitely need people who do that, right?
Yeah, it's putting stuff into practice,
Exactly.
and so if no one ever started the initiative about climate change or sustainability, it wouldn't have never happened, right?
Yeah,
And it
definitely.
started with a small group of people who cared enough and advocated for this to
Yeah.
go forward, right? So every change that I've experienced anyway is that it was started by a small group of people who
Yeah.
continue to amplify their messages and their inspiration that has touched people like you and I, right?
Hmm.
To move forward with something new.
Yeah, definitely. And just my final question to leave everybody with, given your experience with the Agile for Humanity conference, how can the principles of agility, going back to that topic, and
Mhm.
adaptability be applied to make more sustainable, inclusive environments for younger people like me?
Yeah. So the whole premise of the Agile for Humanity conference itself was to create space to allow a diverse group of people to start having conversations, right?
Hmm.
Because um, other conferences, Agile conferences per se, may not have considered in the past diversity as an important aspect when we're having these conferences. So that's how that I started that conference and partnered with and collaborated with other people who came in and contributed to making it a reality. And so when you think of agility, or even the dictionary term, agile, what it really means is to be nimble and flexible, right?
Right.
And so we're talking about a mindset that reflects that change is a constant thing that happens every day, right? We get up, the sun comes up, we go to sleep, the sun goes down, or the sun goes down and then we go to sleep, right? Weather changes, constant change is always an imperative that happens with us. So we have to be ready to inspect and adapt based on when I was talking about measurable outcomes. And in the agile world, we may say empiricism or empirical evidence for change. Why are we changing? Right. And so when you think of the principles of agility itself, we're talking about collaboration and experimentation and continual learning. And those are just fundamentals to help us to come up with any type of innovation and really creating sustainable workplaces. So it's something that a group of people have to do and come together and really put some energy into to make that to bring about change itself, right? And so by just embracing these principles of, yeah, we're going to collaborate, we're going to experiment, we're going to be in a continual learning process, and we're going to be we're going to measure what's happening with us. We can start to build these cultures within the company itself, right? Where our young leaders feel empowered, right, to really contribute to with their new ideas about how to approach things. They could challenge the status quo, because that's one of the things this agility does, and really start to develop just solutions that is really beneficial to both the business and our home, which we call Earth, right, the planet itself. um, this could attract and retain top talent coming out of the different universities, or even if they didn't go to universities, right? And position the organization to thrive in what we call an increasing and complex and interconnected world. Where in the agile world, we like to throw around this acronym called VUCA, right? A volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, right? You may hear a lot of agilists start throwing that acronym around called VUCA, And so that's where we are. We're in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous space. And so we need more collaboration, more experimentation, and for us to be in this continual learning
Right.
space for growth.
Right, absolutely. I agree. We really don't think about inclusivity or diversity as much.
Hmm.
And to your point, we really do. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a really good point because it's not something that we really think about when we think about sustainability at all. So yeah, thank you. And it has been great talking to you. I have learned so much from this conversation because generative sustainability isn't something that's widely talked about. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear a fresh perspective.
Well, no, thank you for also being open to, I said to collaborate and experiment with me, right? Because
Mhm.
you're going to be the first person who will publish, or well, you've already published the article about GSP, so that's
Mhm.
a great beginning. And I think we need more of these type of collaborations that we bring different skills from different generations and to be able to do them together, because at the end of the day, right, we all have, no matter the different generations that exist, we all have to live on this planet together, so we have to figure
Yeah,
things out to make it better long term.
exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So thank you so much once again. It was great
Yeah.
talking to you, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, yeah, I look forward to seeing you October 18th for SOSA, right?
Yes.
2024 for the Agile Alliance. So I'm just giving the Agile Alliance a plug that I'm going to be talking about GSP, and Pragna is going to also be there sharing her thoughts in that space as well. So thank you for agreeing to do that with
Yeah, of
me as well.
course.
All
Of
right.
course.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.